I never thought a single decision could unravel the life I had worked so hard to build. My name is Janet, and at 42, I thought I had it all figured out. For nearly a decade, I dedicated my life to my husband Sean's family business in Portland. It was supposed to be our dream, a fresh start blending my operational expertise with Sean's vision. But as I look back, I realize I had walked straight into a storm I wasn't prepared for. The business was small, with only 10 employees, and it operated under Sean's father, Kevin. Kevin had taken a back seat over the years, trusting Sean to handle most of the day-to-day operations. On the surface, it seemed like a functional setup. I managed the operations, and Sean focused on growth. But beneath the surface, trouble was brewing, and it all began with Brenda, Sean's mother. Brenda, now in her early 70s, had retired from her career years ago. She claimed she wanted to focus on her home and family, but in reality, she often left the household responsibilities to me. While I juggled my demanding job at the firm, I also found myself handling chores she was supposedly in charge of. Her passive-aggressive remarks and disapproving looks became part of my daily life. One scorching summer afternoon, the simmering tension boiled over. Brenda and I had been arguing over something trivial. At least, it seemed trivial to me. She stormed into the kitchen, furious, and hurled her steaming coffee at me. The liquid burned as it soaked through my blouse, and in that moment, her rage was palpable. "You've ruined everything," she spat, her voice dripping with bitterness. But it wasn't just the coffee that left me shaken. What came next truly shattered me. Brenda declared that her younger son, Brian, would be taking over my role at the firm. Brian, who was barely 20 and fresh from dropping out of college, was as inexperienced as they come. Despite his lack of qualifications, Brenda handed me a resignation letter she had already prepared. I was escorted out of the office that I had poured my heart into for years. Devastated, I returned home to find solace in Sean, but his response was measured. "Take a break," he said gently, his calm demeanor betraying the storm raging inside me. Kevin echoed his sentiment, suggesting that distance might offer clarity. Reluctantly, I agreed and retreated to a lakeside cabin, hoping the solitude would help me make sense of my life's sudden upheaval. Days passed in a haze of anger and sorrow. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. It was Brian. His voice was frantic and trembling as he confessed, "Janet, I'm in over my head. The job is way harder than I thought. I can't even manage the basics." For a moment, I felt a flicker of vindication, but it was overshadowed by pity. Brian was drowning in responsibilities he was never prepared for. Despite my hurt, I offered him advice. Yet I knew it was a band-aid on a much larger wound. When I returned to Portland weeks later, the business was in shambles. Brian's mistakes had cost the firm several key clients, and tensions were at an all-time high. Kevin, typically reserved, had reached his breaking point. He proposed merging the firm with a larger company to salvage what was left. Brenda, however, was vehemently opposed. Her refusal to face reality only deepened the divide within the family. In the midst of this chaos, Kevin made a shocking announcement. He was filing for divorce. The accusations flew thick and fast: Brenda's neglect of her duties, her interference in the business, and even alleged infidelities. The fallout was swift. Kevin asked Brenda and Brian to leave the family home, further fracturing an already broken dynamic. With Brenda and Brian gone, Sean, Kevin, and I were left to pick up the pieces. The firm's merger moved forward, but the process was grueling. Every day felt like an uphill battle, balancing the demands of the business with the emotional toll of our family's implosion. Still, there was a glimmer of hope. The firm's new partners brought stability and growth opportunities, and for the first time in months, the future seemed less bleak. Amidst the professional upheaval, my personal life took an unexpected turn. I discovered I was pregnant. The news was both thrilling and terrifying. It felt like a beacon of hope in a sea of uncertainty. Sean's joy was infectious, and together, we began preparing for our new chapter as parents. But just as life seemed to be finding its rhythm, Brenda reached out to me. She wanted to meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The meeting was strained, her voice tinged with regret as she said, "I know I've made mistakes. I want to make things right." Her words were a step toward healing, but trust would take time to rebuild. Brian, too, expressed remorse, admitting he had been unprepared and overwhelmed. Their apologies didn't erase the pain, but they were a start. As the months passed, the firm found its footing under the new management. Employees adapted to the changes, and there was a renewed sense of purpose. At home, Sean and I were busy preparing for our baby's arrival. Despite the challenges, there was a feeling of hope in the air. When our child was born, it was a moment of pure joy. Holding our baby for the first time, I felt a profound sense of peace. The struggles of the past year faded into the background as we embraced this new beginning. In the weeks following our baby's arrival, Sean and I began to reflect on everything we had endured. The firm's merger had brought a sense of stability, but the journey to get there had been anything but smooth. We spent late nights discussing the future, not just for the business, but for our growing family. Those conversations became a source of strength for both of us. Kevin, too, had undergone a transformation. The divorce had left its mark on him, but it also gave him a newfound determination to set things right. He threw himself into the business with renewed vigor, working closely with the new partners to ensure the firm's success. His resilience inspired the rest of the team, and slowly but surely, morale began to improve. As for Brenda, her absence was both a relief and a void. I often wondered if she truly regretted her actions, or if her apologies had been a way to ease her own guilt. She'd moved in with a friend and kept a low profile, reaching out only occasionally. Each interaction was cautious, almost fragile, as if we were all walking on eggshells. One afternoon, as I was sorting through old family photos, I came across a picture of the entire family during a happier time. It was taken years ago at a company picnic. Everyone was smiling, including Brenda. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness for what had been lost. But I also realized how far we'd come since those days. The fractures in our family might never fully heal, but there was still room for hope. The firm, now operating under its new structure, was thriving. New clients were coming in, and old relationships were being mended. Employees who had once feared for their jobs were now looking forward to the opportunities that lay ahead. It was a testament to what could be achieved when people came together for a common purpose. At home, Sean and I found joy in the little moments with our baby. The first smiles, the late-night feedings, and the quiet afternoons spent as a family. Those moments reminded me of what truly mattered. The chaos of the past year had tested us in ways we never imagined, but it had also brought us closer together. One evening, as Sean and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, he turned to me and said, "Janet, I know this year has been harder than we ever thought it could be. But look at where we are now. We've made it through the worst, and we're stronger for it." His words resonated deeply. The journey had been filled with heartbreak and uncertainty, but it had also been a lesson in resilience and the power of hope. As I looked at him and our baby, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel daunting. It felt like an open road, full of possibilities. And as we stepped into this new chapter, I knew we would face whatever came our way. Together.